Take me out to the ball game.
And now, Twitch It Dolphin Media presents The Joys of Mudville, a look at the current state of baseball. Now here are your hosts, Scott McIntyre, Andy Tom Chesson, and James Christopher. And you can definitely tell on this episode of The Joys of Mudville that there's no real baseball to talk about left. Nope. And so you can tell by this episode of The Joys of Mudville that there's no real baseball to talk about yet. Scott, Andy, how are we glued to spring training games?
I just want to say in the three previous games that Albert Pujols has played with the Cardinals was a Game 6 World Series win, a Game 7 World Series win, and a 29-8 win over the Washington Nationals. Cardinals 162-0, baby. That's all I'm saying.
But if you go a little further back, he did lose a big one.
I'm only talking about the last three.
Okay.
You know, my history. I'm going to use information to what
you know what he is, Scott. He's the guy who led our team in ninth inning doubles in the month of August.
That's exactly correct. No, yeah. I mean, extended spring training, right? Isn't this fun? At least they're playing.
I mean, I think it is fun. I think it's the universal DH. If there's an unintended consequence, it's going to allow guys like Albert Pujols to elongate their careers and do things like come back for a victory lap in St. Louis and be still a contributing member of that team. Sure, he can't hit right-handers anymore, but that's besides the point.
Yeah, I mean, but that was the whole reason for the DH again back in the 70s, right? To extend older guys' careers. And then people were like, oh, yeah, but I got this 24-year-old who can mash like a beast, but he couldn't catch a cold if he was butt naked in Alaska in January.
You leave Yordan Alvarez alone.
But what a fine Yordan Alvarez he's been.
Oh, yeah, and I already have our topic for Go-Go Astros next week, but we're excited. But we do have two sort of dramatic things to talk about, and I'm going to have Andy take the lead on the first one. And then, Scott, you could take the lead on the second one, but obviously you can comment on both. For what seemed like an unforced error that led to The Athletic deleting the tweet of which they had the quote, Cashman said that the Astros don't deserve an asterisk on the World Series, but the Yankees not making the World Series since 2009 does, because they would have had something, had they not had encountered something so horrific. Now, first of all, I wish I could have the privilege that Cashman does to think losing a world an ALCS is horrific as opposed to, I don't know, the Ukraine. But this seems stupid to say with the Yankee letter not being opened yet.
Illegal and horrific, Jim. Illegal because it's against the law to rob the Yankees of a World Series and really to rob the rest of the world of the Yankees appearing in a World Series. That's the ultimate crime that the Astros committed. They didn't allow America to have the Yankees in the World Series, which is their rightful place.
Put context in what he was responding to also. What have been the problems in you not appearing again in the World Series since 2009?
Him.
And his answer was the 1 year we made the ALCS and the Astros beat us, and they didn't play fair. There's 2010, 2011, 2000. There's a lot of other years in there that I didn't hear him respond to at all. Man, I mean, there's placating to a fan base, and then there's just saying something stupid. This falls into the latter.
Well, it's the entitlement, and I know that is the Yankees, and rightfully so. They are the best team in Major League Baseball history. They're the best franchise, 27 world championships. That's all legitimate stuff. But there are franchises who have gone their entire existence not appearing in the World Series, and we don't get an article from The Athletic bemoaning them. Part of the issue is Cashman is feeling the heat because they haven't appeared in a World Series since 2009. And that's on him as the general manager, because he keeps doing things like building teams that hit a lot of home runs but strike out a lot and don't really play defense. And, oh, you don't advance? Weird.
Yeah, I think somebody showed that, that the Altuve scoring in game one, and it was because Sanchez just straight up dropped a great relay throw. Like
I have said time and time again, and I think I said it that year, the ALCS MVP that year should have been Gary Sanchez for the Astros. because he butchered a number of plays that would have made differences in games, including that game 2 that you're talking about with Altuve racing home on it really probably shouldn't have sent him if I'm Gary Pettis, but we did, and it worked out for the Astros.
Especially with one out, but we're not going to.
Yeah, but Sanchez catches that ball instead of just, I don't know, trying to body check the ball in front of the home plate. He gets Altuve out, and it goes into extra innings. That's Cashman's issue, is that he keeps buying into the hype of his guys and signing guys because based on the popularity in New York and the New York market. Do you hit a lot of home runs? Then you're our guy. And it's, the Aaron Judge thing. It's if he was playing anywhere else, he wouldn't be considered a future Hall of Famer, because at age 30, he really hadn't accomplished all that much. And yet somehow you talk about him like he's baseball royalty when he's really just a above average right fielder. Great arm.
But what's funny about that, Scott, is some of the rhetoric coming out of Aaron Judge is he's speaking very vague. Like, I just don't want to, I want to go somewhere where I know we have a chance to win. And it's not like, I think it's funny.
That's the pressure that's being felt. But I think what Cashman has done is kind of just, taken what Major League Baseball has done as a whole and exploded it, right? You see the number, we want home runs and we accept the strikeouts. And that seems to be what everybody's going for. They're looking at launch rates. They're not looking, okay, this guy hits 172 with a 490 slugging percentage and a 204 on base, some stupid like that. And they're loading up a roster with that. So Judge is putting a little heat on Cashman now, but Aaron Judge has become Aaron Judge because they like the long ball. He's a large, gargantuan human being. He's still going to promote, or he's still going to pull quite a salary on the open market if he wants to, simply because of his name, and because of what he looks like. Right, he looks like a Greek god. The guy's huge, I think this is a problem with baseball overall, and the Yankees are like in the microscope and look a lot larger, but it's a problem everybody's doing. There's not a lot of teams that are winning games right now. There's really not, but they're are winning World Series, but they are out there chasing the same type of hitters, chasing the same type of numbers.
Well, it's why I do appreciate.
Baseball has a declining viewership rate.
It's why I do agree with that. It is why I sort of appreciate the approach the Astros have had, which has been more contact, less home run. But Andy, I guess my ultimate question about this is, it just seems silly to open the can of worms in the most unforced of errors when you have the potential to have your own cheating scandal outed. And it's so funny to me. And I was really proud of Yankee fan because they didn't want to hear this yesterday. They didn't want to hear it. But the timing just seems weird.
Well, it's low-hanging fruit, right? The timing's weird because Cashman's being asked questions like he is every time this time of year of, why haven't you made the World Series? And is this the team that's going to get you over the hump? And the Yankees as an organization aren't used to being in that position. Hal Steinbrenner isn't as crazy as his father was, but is a certain level of crazy, and it's genetic. I'm sure there's pressure on Cashman. I'm sure Cashman has not an unlimited budget because the Yankees ironically have kind of held to the tax threshold, or at least close to it, where they're not getting huge penalties. They're not spending like the Dodgers are.
Right.
But he's still expected to win, and there is still the expectation that they make the World Series. And the Astros cheating scandal is a 100% low-hanging fruit, with a lot of the people who read the New York Post as their main source of information are going to eat into. Yeah, Twitter fans in this instance might be a little bit more intelligent and up to speed, but to Scott's point, talk to me about the other 13 years that you're not talking about. You're talking about the one, and the ultimate answer to that one is you scored 3 runs in 4 games. That's why you lost. Yeah. And that has nothing to do with any hitting scheme that went on. As a matter of fact, if you want to talk about hitting scheme, you scored 3 runs in 4 games in Minute Maid Park, where we supposedly have this big hitting advantage. At your own park, you scored like 17 runs in 3 games.
Yeah. In the Astros run production, that series was actually very consistent.
The first 2 games were 2-1 wins, 2-1 victories for the Astros.
Yeah, but have you seen my Apple Watch?
Well, and the best part is that it helps if you don't know what pitch was coming. Lance McCullers threw you 30 straight curveballs. You knew it was coming. You just.
I mean, he was short of the Greinke just telling him it was a curveball, but he might as well have been doing that.
Yeah. So, and we're going to move to another sort of dramatic story. And I want, again, Scott's take on this first, because again, in the world of timing, first of all, Scott, before I ask the question, people need to understand that the burden of proof in a criminal case is incredibly high. It's incredibly hard to get. And in fact, if there's even the doubt that a prosecutor, that a DA can't make a conviction, they're not going to pursue one. Like, it's hard. A civil case, the burden of proof is much lower. For example, O.J. Simpson was exonerated from killing Nicole, but he was found liable in the criminal case. So why is Bauer coming out and suing everyone, including Molly, who I hate the fact that the world has made me pick a side on this particular instance, but coming out and suing her when the civil trial, as far as I understand, has not been finished yet, the civil case of this?
No, I think wow, man, this is such a complicated story. I mean, there's so many facets to this. I mean, everyone has to understand to begin with that Trevor Bauer, yes, to your point, he claims he was having rough sex with a woman. She claims it was more than that. That is the true he said, she said. Major League Baseball has kept him not suspended, but whatever they want to call it. You can't play. You're over here, but you're not officially suspended. You're still getting. I don't know.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, they don't have enough proof to take it to a criminal court like what you're talking about. But he's still suspended. So there's something there, right? There's something there. Yes, we are in an era where when a woman accuses you of something, you're going to be looked at now stronger than you've ever been looked at before.
Right.
So Bauer's not able to play, but I don't know if I'm in Trevor Bauer's shoes now. I'm just going to play this weird thing. Let's say that Trevor Bauer truly is innocent on this, okay? Because it's not been proven. Let's really say that he didn't do anything wrong. Devil's advocate here.
Sure.
Absolutely, you do the you pull the plug on opening a case like this, because you want to get your own story out there. You want the truth to be told so you can get your job back, you can get your life back, you can get the stain off your back. Conversely, if he, on the other side, if he really did this, but now he realizes he's free from criminal punishment, and he still wants to, what am I trying to say? Not have a civil case go fully against him without him being able to punch back. And let's be honest, that's kind of Trevor Bauer's MO. He's not a guy to just sit back and take it on the chin. Whether it's Twitter, congratulating Deshaun Watson. By the way, great look, Trevor. Great move. Let's congratulate Deshaun Watson for apparently getting away with it right before you do yourself. But you come out there and you do that, and you still want to punch back, right? The best defense is a great offense sometimes. And I get why he's making the move, because he's a bold guy. He's a brash guy. I don't have to like the guy to understand why he's making the moves. I don't condone this guy in any sense whatsoever, but I see why he's taking the shot back, because what's his other play at this moment? He wants to get back on the field. He wants to make money while he can.
The other play is to do nothing.
But that's just it. But to do nothing's not going to get him anywhere.
The other play is to be contrite and apologetic and realize that you put yourself in a crap situation, even if you didn't technically assault somebody. And he doesn't have that gear in his head where he could take a step back and reflect and go, maybe I shouldn't come across as an asshole in everything that I do. Maybe that would make me a more sympathetic character in these sort of things, which is going to matter if there is a civil case filed, by the way, because the burden of proof is so much lower. And he is conflating, you both said it, but he's conflating this idea that the LA County District Attorney declined to charge with I'm innocent of any charges.
Right.
That all that decline to charge means is there insufficient evidence to prove anything in court. It's not worth their time to pursue because they can't win it, which is very common in assault cases and rape cases, because it is a he said, she said sort of thing.
Particularly when the rape or the assault begins as consensual sex, and then there's an amount of time between the charges being filed. And I think the thing out here is what I think makes this all more bold is that Bauer doesn't deny anything that happened in the encounter, including continuing to have sex with her while she maybe was unconscious. He just said she wanted it. Like,
Yeah.
That's the thing to remember. And so I just don't understand
Well,
how, if you're, I'm sorry, Andy, go ahead. Sorry.
No problem. It's the lawsuits. He's filed another one that we didn't talk about against Deadspin a few weeks before he filed against Molly Knight and the Athletic. And the Deadspin issue was that they ran with an idea that he fractured this woman's skull during all of this, and it turns out that part wasn't true. She had a head injury. It wasn't a fractured skull. They went with some hyperbole, I think, to get clicks, as you do in the internet age. And so he's filed a suit against them. This suit against Molly Knight, who is horrible, a horrible, horrible person. And I don't know if I could say that in a different way. And the Athletic is because they ran with the story, and his term, or the term in the suit, is something like malicious intent to damage my career. And what I don't think he understands is every time he opens his mouth, whether it's about a lawsuit or congratulating Deshaun Watson or whatever, he's damaging his career because he can't just keep his damn mouth shut and let the process play out. There is a time and a place for him to defend himself. It is not in the court of public opinion. It is with the MLB and the players union and the people who are suspending him indefinitely right now. They don't continue to run 30-day suspensions in infinitum with no reason.
With the union agreeing to them. Like the union has to agree to that, and they're agreeing.
Now, the union's a little bit buoyed by the idea that he's getting paid because somehow he's on administrative leave and not as a violation of the sexual assault policy. So he's still making his $40 million a year.
Yeah. Going back to what you were talking about with the, there's an emergency room physician that says, looks like she has a skull fracture. They run the CT scan. There is no skull fracture. Right. And this part was reported. That part wasn't reported. Sure. I think it's also important to see that, going after how you are report. I'm okay with this. I'm okay with him doing this lawsuit because the truth will come out. Right. And to Andy's point that he was just making, we do live in an age where people pick and choose parts of a story that they want to put up on their website, that they want to report on the news because they want to get these clicks. They want to, look at the shocking revelation that Michael Jordan said about LeBron James. Sure. And then you read through 19 pages and you see that, LeBron James said that, or Michael Jordan says LeBron James, has less hair than he thought. I mean, it's the stupidest stuff.
I know, I get that, but I think, and so like the Deadspin thing is, I think it's a different animal, right? They reported factually. I don't think that anything the Athletic reported was factually incorrect. And Molly is also an opinion writer. So if she's writing, I don't want him on the Dodgers anymore.
Well, I don't think the case ultimately has any legs against the Athletic. And I mean, any idiot with a lawyer can file a suit. You got enough money, you can file. I mean, it doesn't have to have standing.
I might sue my contractor.
I mean, you could also sue whoever built 35 because you face traffic every day. You're not going to win that case.
Boy, I wish I could.
Can I sue you for that shirt?
I love it.
That's what I'm saying. I want the shirt.
Leave my rain spooner alone. 65th anniversary. Just
saying. No, I mean, the good part, in the more lawsuits that come out, the more time that something spends in court, the more revelations happen, the more truth comes out. And if that means I don't have to watch Trevor Bauer pitch for a year or two while this stays languishing in a courtroom, cool. I'm all right with it.
But I think that's the deal. If he could keep his mouth shut, he would be back on the field sooner. He's going to continue to be a problem for Major League Baseball because he can't stop doing the things he's doing. And they're going to continue to suspend him. And the players union evidently is okay with it. So he's going to lose. He's already lost a year. He's going to lose maybe another year of his prime earning year, his prime stats years. And if you take the money aside, these guys all have egos. They all want to be all-stars and Hall of Famers, and he's losing 2 of his prime years to do that. So if you were going to talk about black ink and blue ink and all those fun things about who's going to be a Hall of Famer someday, he's rapidly dropping out of the conversation if he was in it to begin with, because he's not able to produce those counting stats. He's not able to produce those longevity stats. And that matters to him. And it matters to him from a future earnings standpoint too. I know if we all made $120 million over the next 3 years, we probably don't need to show up at autograph shows. But is there anything about his lifestyle that tells you he's not blowing through that money?
Well, that's a good point. I'll be honest. I don't think he's going to pitch again. I think that we're looking at obviously two very different situations, but I think we're looking at a Colin Kaepernick situation where every year out is a year he's not coming. It makes it harder and harder to come back. And to your point, Andy, I don't know what contender wants to take on that PR hit. The Yankees aren't going to do it because they're still dealing with Chapman and Severino. The Astros are not going to do it because we've done the Osuna thing, and the Dodgers. I don't think he's playing for the Dodgers ever again.
Well, you know where he was most successful was in Cleveland in his year in Cincinnati, where very low media coverage, where he could get away with being the asshole. And there wasn't a lot of, you go to LA and people are watching your every move, especially when you're making $40 million a year. If he was going to New York, it would be the same thing. He needs to be in the middle of the country with a low media, a media presence that's not trying to be investigative journalism, I guess is the nice way to put it.
So like a White Sox team with a Tony La Russa with an old school mentality. I'm just saying, I don't think he's
I think Chicago's even too big for him. And St. Louis is too classy an organization, but somewhere in the Midwest where it's just not the be all end all to be an athlete in that community. And if he was fine in Cincinnati, and he's probably the same level of asshole and probably doing the same kind of crap and paying people off to do it. I mean, allegedly, that covers everything, allegedly, but that he needs to be someplace. And I just don't know the team. There is no Oakland Raiders in Major League Baseball.
Right.
There's not even an Oakland Raiders in the NFL anymore because there's too much money on the line. But I just because they play in Vegas now. I don't think he's out of baseball though, guys. I really don't. I mean, if Deshaun Watson can still find a way back after everything he had and somebody's willing to sign him, if somebody thinks that they're going to get 15 more wins a year because they got Bauer on their team.
I think a quarterback is different, as I was pointed out on this episode of the last episode of Go Astros, as I was pointed out that a quarterback is different than any position on a baseball team. And yeah, look, what happened with Deshaun Watson thing is abhorrent. I think that we can look at the situations and see Trevor Bauer went to 11. Like he beat the shit out of her while they were fucking. He didn't proposition her after a massage. I don't know that they're apples and apples to compare them to.
Right. And you don't even get the excuse, and it is an excuse, but the Robert Osuna type of assault where it's, a crime of passion. It's my wife or my long-term girlfriend. This is a hookup. It was a hookup that he decided he wanted to go nuts on and decided mentally for himself, she's into it because she's here.
Yeah, I mean, I again can't condone his action, but we also live in an age where people are like, wait a minute, if they're into that, we can't kink shame. So I just, it's such.
Thing? I'm sure
I'm
positive we can kink shame still.
You think? It depends on what it is.
As long as it's not same sex.
It depends. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm not even going to approach it. Even
I think in the wake of Me Too, though, I think the wake of Me Too and all of that stuff, I don't think this chick, just like I don't think the women in the Deshaun Watson things, like you don't get 22 women who all decide to make up the same story, right?
Right.
I mean, does North Korea have a baseball league? Because that's the kind of place maybe Russia. Do they have a baseball league?
Yeah, he gets paid 40 million rubles.
Yeah, and apparently the Russian league's trying to expand south right now. Bad joke. But not being successful at their expansion plans.
But here's the thing, though. What woman in her right mind dates or hooks up with Trevor Bauer now?
Someone who wants some money and a story, or maybe going to get a good time, how did Charles Manson get women that wanted to marry him when he was in prison?
There are women who marry serial killers while they're in prison after they've been convicted based on who knows what, but there will always be somebody who's willing to take that bullet, especially if you think there's some sort of financial incentive to do so.
Yeah, none of us are single. I mean, somehow we talk 3 people into it. I don't know, yeah, but
I'm a far way away from $40 million a year, so I don't have that.
Yeah, no, like Jessica bet on the wrong horse for sure.
Yeah, but your cost of living is lower than Southern California.
Well, that, you know what, you might that
No
actually
state
might
tax.
be enough.
Offsets it right there. No, I hope this is the last time we have to talk about Trevor Bauer. I'm sure it's not, but man, I want just go off my radar. If you want to throw a baseball and you're not guilty of this stuff, fine, let the truth come out, throw a baseball, shut your pie hole, because we're all just sick of hearing about you, Trevor. We really are. Stop tweeting. I would rather listen to Brad Marchand of the Boston Bruins whine for hours on end than having to hear Trevor Bauer go off about anything, trying to condone his own actions or congratulating other guys that are just like him. Man, screw that.
Couldn't agree more. Andy, any last words?
Why? How can I follow that up?
Well, at least next week we'll have actual baseball games to talk about on this episode, because we'll be at least 2 games in for most teams. At least I know the Astros start on the 7th, I think, or the 8th. So we'll actually have some baseball to talk about next week. So we will
actual baseball is
actual
actually being
baseball.
played.
We will we'll see you then.